And welcome back, everybody. The majestic, mysterious, and very gray looking scorpion is waiting to be animated. So let's get to it. First things first, I should have mentioned this in a previous episode. Save your work. Save. I just saved it before I started recording. And as you will see from looking right here, I have now been working in Blender for 1 hour and 2 minutes and 35 seconds. And yes, I have done this whole 3 video series all in a row, and I just chopped them up in post. And the file's been saved for a minute and 5 seconds. So had Blender crashed on me, all of this work would have been lost, which would be horrible. And as much as we all hate crashes, they do sometimes happen. And it might not even be the fault of the software. You might accidentally pull out the power cord from the wall, or there could be a power loss, or your battery could die in your laptop and you didn't have it plugged in. A lot of things could happen that'll result in lost work. So make sure you save your work, because it'll save you from a lot of heartache and anguish and wasted time if you have to rebuild your stuff. Okay, with that huge disclaimer out of the way, let's get down to business. So we want to animate this guy. We want him to do some stuff. I always like to start at frame 0. You can start at whatever frame you want. I personally just start at frame 0. And this is what I like to do. Hit the M key on the keyboard, and that puts a marker on the timeline. And you can actually use the marker menu and put markers in as well. Of course, you can't see that because of the little doodad thing there, but see, we can add markers with M, duplicate markers, Shift D, duplicate marker to scene, blah 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 blah. You can do all this cool stuff. I just use the keyboard shortcuts though. So M creates a marker, Control M to rename the marker. Okay. So what's the first animation we're gonna do for this guy? I'm gonna do the easiest, an idle. So I'll do idle underscore start. Again, you can use a space, you can use a dash. Just name it something that's going to make sense to you. And how many frames do I want to give this guy for an idle? I'm going to go to frame 60. And then we'll create a marker with M. Control M to rename it, and we're going to call it idle underscore end. And again, name it whatever you want. This is just to give you an idea, so when you export this file into whatever format you're using, probably B3D if you are using this for in Minetest, you know where your animation is. So you can write your code and say, okay, his idle animation is from frame 0 to frame 60. And everything's right here in text for you to see. It makes it much easier than having to scrub through the timeline and be like, okay, where does the idle start? Where does it end? Okay, well, there we are. Okay, I got it now. And it's just a lot easier to do it this way. I am going to turn X-ray on. And you will notice, very nice. We only have these few bones shown here. We are in pose position. So let's, before we even start animating his idle, let's set this to its rest position, which is with its tail up in the air. Maybe like that. How do we feel about that being its rest position? I like that. I think that works. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a location keyframe there. And actually, I think I can Control Alt A. No, let's try this. I don't even know if I can. Append. No, I don't want to append. I want to apply. Apply visual transformation to pose. Apply pose as rest pose. Actions on this armature will be destroyed by this new pose as the transforms stormed are relative to something. I couldn't read everything it said. Ooh. Okay, let's undo that with Control Z. I hope I can undo that. Yes, we can. Good. Alright, well, I guess I can't save that as its rest. But I did put a keyframe there, so that's good. So let's go ahead to the idle end and put a keyframe there right away. Anything that you animate should be at the same keyframe for the start and the end of its animation. That way when it loops, the tail will be back at the same position when it ends to when it starts. And we can demo this in a little bit once we get some animation set up. So we're going to set the end frame to 60. And now if I do Alt-A, it'll play through and it loops from 60 to 0. Which is great because that's what we need. So let's go to frame 30 and let's just move the tail a little bit and we'll insert a location. And let's play this animation out now. So he's kind of pumping his tail back and forth a little bit. And it loops really nice because we put a keyframe in the same location in world space at the first and end frame. So let's go ahead and decide what other animation he wants. Maybe his body should just bob up and down a little bit. Now we could manually animate that, and it wouldn't be a horrible idea to do that, but there are other ways. And this whole video is about sneaky little tips and tricks. They're not sneaky at all. This is stuff that any good animator knows how to do. And I assume you want to be a good animator, which is why you are watching a video from one of the most qualified individuals on YouTube to be presenting the subject matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the body here, and we're going to drop open the little thing. I'm clearly the most qualified because I don't even know what it's called. And we want to select the Z location body. And Z location is just the up and down. That's all it is. And we're going to click on modifiers. Now, if this little doodade's not showing, it's the N key, which actually I think I opened that. So yes, hit the N key here and it opens your little side panel. And the T key does not open a side panel. It lets you change your animation modes, which maybe we'll talk about. I could see that being useful. And we're going to go ahead and add a noise. And look at this little graph here. That graph is your keyframes. So if we play this now, this guy is having a seizure, or he is strung out on some bad drugs. Something's happening and it's not good. So first off, let's restrict the frame range to start at 0 and to end at frame 60, which when we look at this now, we only have the blue squiggles in the idle section, so that's good. One thing we want to do though is we want to scale in and then scale out. So let's do 5 frames and 5 frames. And what that does is ensures that our start and end position are smoothly met. So it has a easy transition when it loops. Now this is still, it's just going crazy. So let's change the scale and that'll make it longer. So the animation is a little more drawn out. He's just going up and down way too much though. So let's change the strength. Let's put the strength really low to like 0.1. So he's just kind of moving up and down a little bit. And you know, I'm going to even make the scale a larger negative number. The larger the negative number goes, the less motion is in there. So if we want this guy to be, you know, having a stroke, put your scale at like 1. And then it's all over the place. But if you pull the scale out to something like 15 or so, it's almost like he's breathing. And his body's just kind of, he's moving up and down as his body goes here. And he's kind of bobbing his tail a little bit. And we could have actually done the same thing for the tail. We could have selected maybe the Z and the Y location, which is what have animation here actually. And we could have put modifiers on them to modify the tail to just be a generated animation. But, you know, I think this works just as well. And, you know, we could do something for the head. We could put a keyframe. And actually, I didn't want that. I wanted a rotation keyframe for the head because the head's not going to be moving. It's going to be rotating. And then we could do a noise modifier on this as well. Wow, he is going schizophrenic there. Again, we will do an end frame on that. We'll do 5 in and 5 out. Now let's put the strength on this 2.1 and let's put the scale to 20 and see how that looks. So now it kind of just moves its head about a little bit. And that's his idle. So he's just sitting there, you know? Like contemplating his next move. Deciding when to strike out with an attack. I don't know why I am painting scorpions to be really, really vicious monsters. Which, maybe they are. I've never actually dealt with a scorpion in real life. So, yeah, sue me, I guess. But I am not qualified to be talking about scorpions. Alright, so now, I'm going to start at frame 70. You can start wherever you want. If you wanted, you could start your next animation at frame 61. And, again, you would just hit M and then Control M to name it. I don't want that, so I'm going to hit X to delete it. I usually leave 10 frames between just because that's what I do. You could leave whatever number you want. It's just a little easier for me when I do it by tens because I generally keep my animations in blocks of 10. And it's easy to split 10 to 5. Whereas if I was at 61 and then I'm ending at 141 to try to figure out what the center number is, it's not hard, but it's easier when there's zeros at the end. It's the easiest thing in the world to split the amount then. But again, you can do whatever's easiest for you. Gonna add a marker with M, Control M, and we are going to call this attack underscore start. As you may have noticed, I am holding off on the walk cycle because, as I mentioned previously, I'm no good at them. Alright, so what is the attack of the scorpion? What does this guy do to kill, maim, and annihilate his enemies? And how many frames does he need to demonstrate that? Can I do it in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60? How many frames do I want? It's all going to depend on what the attack is. And you can always tweak this around. And if you want, you can even start your animation and then just wherever it finishes, finish it. You don't need to feel like you are stuck with a certain length. Now, of course, you might not want to have an attack animation that's, 300 frames long or something, because it may never play all the way in Minetest if you're using the Mobs Redo API, which is kind of my assumption, but of course you could be writing your own API or using any other API that is out there. But it's just something to keep in mind when you're making your different animations. Think of how it's going to be used in the game, and is an animation of that length going to work, or is it going to get cut? Like, for example, this idle animation here, it's 2 seconds long. That's pretty short. I could make it longer, but what if the scorpion's idling, and then he starts walking? And he starts walking in the middle of his idle animation that's, 160 frames. He starts walking in the middle, and suddenly he jumps from the middle of his idle animation to his walk animation with no, scaling in, and it looks kind of silly. So I try to keep him a little shorter, so it's not as horrible when that happens, because it's still going to happen. It's inevitable. Okay, so we've got our attack frame start here. What are we going to move in the attack? Well, the tail will definitely move, so let's go ahead and set a location for that. I think the body is going to have a rotation and a location movement. So I want that. That way I can, move this, and it won't affect anything from over here because it now has an animation keyframe set, and anything that does change between the two will be happening in here. Though, I will mention, your idle end should pretty much be the exact same position as the attack start, and they should also be the same position as the walk start and end. Or maybe they shouldn't be. That's how I always do it. I guess experiment, see what works best for you. I don't know. I am so not qualified to be teaching this. And we're going to set a rotation keyframe for the head. Alright, so this is the attack start. I'm just going to go to frame 120. And I'm not even going to set any keyframes here, but I'm going to kind of visualize what I want the attack to look like. Okay, so he's going to stick his head a little lower to the ground. And now he's going to do that because his armor is mostly on his back. I mean, technically, scorpions have an exoskeleton. So I guess as far as armor goes, there's probably just as much on his belly. But whatever. We want his belly to be pretty much covered by the ground. So if you wanted to stab a spear up into his belly, you'd have to get behind him. And he has maybe thicker exoskeleton on the back, or he's got some ridges or plates or whatever. There's something there. So I'm thinking something like that looks good. But you know what? I think maybe I want to pull these front feet forwards. Like that. So now if I do that, I'm going to want to set a keyframe for those feet at the beginning frame. And actually, I do like how that looks. What if I pull the rear legs back? A lot of animating really is just experimenting with things. You know, I like that too. Something like that maybe. And I did not want to select that. There we go. And then let's pull the tail up. And forward like that. Not bad. But there's no way he can really stab you. But maybe he doesn't stab. Maybe he actually shoots an ion cannon out of his tail. Maybe this is actually a mecha scorpion. Is that how it's pronounced? Mecha? You know, the robots and stuff. Maybe he actually shoots like an ion cannon from his tail. And maybe the operator actually kind of lays in a chair kind of a thing here. And so he has like his little windshield up here. So in order to see what's in front of him, he has to be on this angle. I'm just, making stuff up. But okay. I like this as an attack pose. And I really like the idea of him shooting. So we can click on any bone here, and we will see every keyframe it has set. So we can see the body has a keyframe set at the beginning of attack. So that's good. The tail has its keyframe set. That's also good. The feet have no keyframe set. So if we set a keyframe for them here, and then go back, or actually I can move it right now, they will stay where they're at. Which doesn't matter. It's easy enough to clear the location by hitting Alt-G. And that'll put it back to its default. And then we'll have to pull it up one so it's sitting on the ground. But I want to leave that where it's at right now. I need to figure out how many frames do I want to use for the attack. I think I'm going to go to frame 100. And that'll be like middle of the attack. So we'll set a keyframe for the location of each foot. Well, of the feet that are affected. The center one doesn't move or anything. The body we need to slope forward again and pull up. And I don't know how high I want to put that. But I'm thinking like this. That looks good. So we'll go ahead and set a location and a rotation. No, I'm fairly certain location and rotation both already had been set. But I will have to make sure when we go back and check. And I have no idea what I just hit there. I hit H. I did not want to hit H. Where is my tailbone? I need to see that. I accidentally hit it. I should have something here called tail IK control. Where did that go? Oh, here we go. Let's make that visible again. Alrighty. And the G key to move it. And put it forward right there. Yeah, maybe he could have like little chain guns on his tail or something. I feel like something in Doom has that, which I don't know because I've never played Doom. I like that. I like that a lot. How he just kind of bends his body forward and the tail literally just moves straight forwards. I mean, it curves and everything. That is dope. Okay, so now we need to go through and clear the keyframes on the feet. And then we need to slide the feet up. One space. 1/10 of a space, whatever. And then we need to set location keyframes on all of these. Alright, so now the attack. Let's see what this attack looks like. Is it as epic as I think it will be? Just kind of angle it there so you can see what's going on. That looks good. Alright, so we have attack start. Slips his legs out, bends his body forwards, pulls his tail into firing position. Dude, that's pretty good. You know what? Maybe I want his tail or his head to rotate a little bit too. Why not, right? Let's pull his head up a little bit so he can kind of, you know, see what he's attacking. That'll probably be helpful, I feel. You know, see what's in front of you instead of looking at the ground. All right, so now do we want the attack to actually be anything? Like, we could use a few keyframes and we could make the tail move while it's here. You know, do some little back and forth like there's a machine gun shooting out of it. Or we could just put everything back to its at rest pose. And it would just go to that position, and then maybe we could hold it there for 10 frames and then go back. It's totally up to you. I mean, you got to decide what you want to do. But rather than going through and manually setting a keyframe for every single bone that we have animated here, there's an easier way. Let's go back to the animation screen here. And let's go ahead and select all of our bones. And what we're going to see here is, okay, so far we have added keyframes to the tail, IK control, to the body, to the head, and to the right first and third leg, and the left first and third leg. I don't know why I get leg R3 before leg R1. That makes no sense to me. But nonetheless, those are the frames that we have put animations on. So if we go to frame 100, we can see right here in all these little black dots, those are all the keyframes. And this red one, this one here, this is frame 110. So if we want to copy the keyframes and keep them the exact same, all we have to do is use the box select with the B key, select all of them. Shift D to duplicate, hold down the control key, and slide to the right till it says DX10 in the bottom left corner there. And you will see that moves around, and it will move up and down as well, so you have to be careful, but we can put it 10 keyframes over. And now all of those have a second keyframe that are 10 frames further. And then let's go to frame 140, and that's going to be the end of the attack animation. So let's go ahead and add a marker and then control M to rename, and we're going to do attack end. All right, so now we need to put everything back to the rest position. We could go through and do Alt G on every bone and then set the animation, but that's going to put the feet below the ground, and that's going to put the tail at that position. Not optimal. So what do? We cheat. We go back to frame 70 and make sure all the bones are selected. That's important because we need to highlight everything here. And if you hit the home key on your keyboard, it'll actually zoom the, I think this is called the F curves. You'll fit them to the screen. But I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and we are going to use the box select and select every keyframe that is on that frame. So right now I have selected all these keyframes for all these bones, except the master bone, because it doesn't have any keyframes and those two center ones don't. But anything that has a keyframe is selected. And I'm going to do like we did before. Shift D to duplicate, hold down the control key, and slide it to the right. And we will see a little yellow line moving on the timeline in the bottom. See it? I would like point to it, but oh wait. Yeah, my mouse doesn't do that. It stays in this window and loops. But there's that yellow line moving. And we just want that to match up right where it says attack end. So right there, 70 frames. Boom. Click to select or to release selection over. And now he goes to his attack pose, holds it for 10 seconds, and goes back to his at rest pose. So within this 10-second range, we could do some little things. Like maybe move the tail a little. So let's move it back, insert a location, and then move it forward some. You know, so he goes there, and then his tail kind of does this little jerky motion. And you could do whatever else. I mean, if we want, we could, at frame 105, we could pull the body a little higher. Maybe. If we wanted, like, just like, that might be too much, honestly. Let's see what that looks like. No, that works, I think. Okay, so let's see what this looks like in a loop. So we'll set our start frame to 70 and our end frame to 140. Alt A to play the animation. Yeah, I like it. I think that works. All right, so let's go to 150. Add a marker, rename the marker, and we're going to call it walk start. Yay. I hate walk cycles. I hate them so much. So, for starters, if you're doing a real animal, try to find a video of it on YouTube walking. Trust me, it'll make your life a lot easier. Also, do not start off with 6-legged things. Well, what's a 6-legged thing called? I mean, I know like an insect, but there's a name for it. Like a quadruped walks on 4 legs. Bipeds walk on 2 legs. What's something that walks on 6 legs? If it's a quadruped, sextuped? Maybe? Sestuped? I don't know. But I am the most qualified person to be teaching this course. I think that just means the hats of names that we have available to pick from is really, really pathetic. And yeah, pretty much just garbage. Okay, so let's start with the normal here. Let's add a location and a let's do location and rotation to the body. Let's do a location for the tail. And, well, the feet are all going to need locations. But we'll kind of do them as we get to them. So how does a scorpion walk? I don't know. I honestly have no idea. But I'm imagining something kind of like this. He moves a foot forward. And then puts the foot down. And then drags the foot on the ground. And because he has 6 legs, when this foot's moving forwards, this foot's picking up off the ground maybe. And then by the time this foot touches the ground, this foot's moving forward, and this foot is starting to pick up. And then, yeah, this one gets back to its start position. This one's on the ground at the front. This one's now up in the air. And then maybe this leg, and at some point the center legs have to move too. You know what, I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to watch a video on a scorpion walking, if I can find one. Okay, if you don't like bugs, and scorpions in particular, do not do a YouTube search for scorpion walk cycle. That was disgusting. There was a dude holding one, like a big one, like 6 inches long or something, just walking on his hands. Oh, horrifying. Okay, well, so I kind of learned that scorpions have 8 legs. Definitely qualified. Definitely the most qualified person ever. So what do? Do I add more legs? No, because its walk cycle looked super complicated. Way too complicated to do with 2 more legs. So we're just gonna give it a stab. And I'll wait for all your stinging remarks. And yes, that was meant as a pun, because scorpions sting. Alright, so let's do something we haven't done yet. Let's use the automatic keyframe insertion for objects and bones. Let's just click this little red button right here and see what happens. So we are going to manually insert a location keyframe there. And I'm going to zoom in on this. And I'm going to do 5 keyframes in to frame 155. And I'm going to move this leg up 1 space and out 1 space. And you'll notice, whoa, now suddenly we have location, we have rotation, and we have scale. I did not want that. Using active keying set only? Yes, I think that's what I want. So let's get rid of these 2 by using Alt-I. And let's just move this foot and see what happens. Nope, it added keyframes to everything. I don't want keyframes on this stuff. I only want a keyframe on the location. Can't I? Automatic keyframe insertion. Automatic keyframe insertion using active keying set only. I don't know how you said an active keying set. I honestly don't even know what that means. So, New keyframe type. Jitter, extreme, moving hold, breakdown keyframe. Well, if you don't mind adding tons of extra keyframes that you don't need, which honestly, it doesn't matter, because when you export, it's only going to export stuff that has anything there, but it'll automatically set these keyframes up for us. So I'd pretty much just have to move 5 frames, and then move the bone, and then in this case it'll be 10 frames because I'm moving back 2 segments. And it automatically does all these keyframes. So the foot goes up, forwards, down to the ground, and slides back. Yay! And that is, that's walk cycles. I can't get off with that? Come on! This is hard to do. Okay, fine, I'll do all the legs. Only because you asked nicely, though. I'm going to turn this off because I don't really like that. Because it adds these other things I don't need. And I'm going to go through now and remove these by using Alt-I. And they will be yellow if there's an active keyframe. And they turn green if there is a keyframe on them at any point in the timeline. So now the rotation and the scale have no keyframes at any point. And you will see I am jumping rather quickly through my keyframes. And if you're looking at the little doodad thing there, up arrow will jump you forward to a keyframe, and the back arrow will jump you back to the previous keyframe. And obviously right and left move you forward and reverse. I don't think that really needed explaining. Alright, so my animation was pretty basic here, I think. It moves up and forward 1, it moves down and forward 1, and then it takes 10 frames to move back. Alright, so let's do that for another foot. Right? How hard can this be? How hard can it be? It can be super hard. Hard to the point that you don't even want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to offset that by 5, and I'm going to set a location keyframe there. And then I'm going to move this 5 spaces. G to move, Control to constrain, up and forward 1. Insert a location. 5 more frames, G key to move forward, down in 1, insert a location, and then we're going to go ahead 10 frames, and move back 2 spaces, and finally insert a location. So now, when we watch the walk cycle in all of its majestic glory, that leg moves, that leg moves. That's pretty convincing, honestly. We'll see how it looks when they're all set, though. Okay, so, this one starts at 150, this one starts at 155. Is 5 frames? I think 5 frames is fine. So the next one should start at 160. Which leg do I want to move next? Well, if I moved one on the left, I should probably move another one on the left. And it would honestly be easy if I just go to the middle leg and then to the rear leg, and if I do this one in the opposite direction. So that's what we're going to do. Is that how they actually walk? Probably not. But I just told you that they have 8 legs, not 6. So at this point, I don't know why you even care what I think about scorpions, because clearly I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to scorpions. Like, I am no scorpion expert. Okay, so now we want to start at 165, and we want to do this little sucker over here. So we'll do the same thing we've been doing, 165, then we'll go to frame 170, and we'll be moving that up and forward 1. Just holding down the control key to move everything to the grid here. It's honestly the easiest way to do this. And I know someone's gonna be, well, that looks super mechanical because everything's snapping to a grid. And I mean, maybe, but it's not jumping to it. I mean, it's still smooth. And notice the issue here. These feet are kind of intersect. Oh, no, they're not. They're so close. I mean, they probably are, but it's not enough where it matters. That might work, honestly. That might work. Okay, so that was started at 165. So this guy now starts at 170. He takes his first movement into the big scary world of walk cycles. I feel like I'm just terrifying all of you guys watching this. Like, wow, he is really making walk cycles out to be the worst thing in the world. I don't think I'm ever going to want to do any. I'm going to make all of my models are going to just slide on the ground. They'll just be things like snakes that don't have legs to walk, or they'll all have wheels. I'm just going to make monsters that run on these little wheel carts so that I don't have to do walk cycles. And I mean, it's not that horrible, but it's not something that just like, oh yeah, let me just throw this together in 2 minutes. Like, it takes work. Of course, everything else does too. And the only reason I hate walk cycles so much is because I do them rather infrequently. And that makes them more difficult. Alright, so 195 is my last frame there. So let's end this at 195. And let's watch this loop and see how this looks. Okay, I see a problem. Do you see the problem? Because I see a problem. He moves all of his legs, and then his legs all go to the rest position. So it looks like he walks, 2 notes forwards, and then he stops walking. Or however far forwards that would put him. So what we need to do then is say, okay, so here's his first foot to move. And it's already back at frame 170. At frame 170, this guy is just starting. The foot on the left is just starting. So we have a problem in that when he's walking, he is holding, there's always 1 foot solid on the ground. So that should be tweaked somehow. Either move them all closer, which I don't know how I could really do that, or have him move 2 at once. Maybe like do those 2 at the same time. And then both of the middle legs at the same time. That could work. Let's see how that looks. And I'll do it just because it's actually going to be useful to know how to do this. Okay, so we're going to select this back set. And for some reason, it's put all of these highlighted for us already. I don't know why. So I'm going to re-highlight them. And we are going to grab, and we're going to hit the X key, because we want to move them on X. We're just going to hit -5. And that'll scoot them forward 5 frames. I know. What? It'll do 5 frames? Why would it do that? That makes no sense. And that's just how it works, okay? That's how it works. Alright, so now, if we did the front and the rear, we want to do both the middle legs. And that one's 160. When does this middle leg start? 165. Oh. That's good. Because then we just have to do grab X, -5. Those both move in conjunction, in tandem. Those both move in tandem. When does this back leg start? 170. Which I guess would make sense if the last one I did was 165, right? No, wait. 150, 160, 170. Does this one start at 170? No, what? What did I do wrong here? I moved that one forward 5 frames, which is 150. 160, 170. So on frame 10, those start. And then frame 10, these start. Okay, well, whatever. I'll move these to 170. So there's 10 frames of pause between each set, which is what it is. And so 170, 180, the front legs, or the front and the rear, should be starting their loop again. So I'm going to copy these keyframes. Wait, I don't want that. I want these. I'm going to do Shift D. I'm going to duplicate them over and put them to frame 180. Oh, wait. I want that. There we go. So it's 30 frames. And let's see what happens now. Okay, that's working. But I'm still noticing there's a little disconnect here. So frame 50 goes through 70, starts again at 180 because that's 10 frames after the last set. So 190, the middle should start again. So we're going to go ahead and select those, Shift D, and I know it's 30 frames, so I'll move them 30 frames. Now I think I need to do that for this one as well. So we'll go ahead, whoops, Shift D and 30 frames over. All right, and now I think I did. I forgot to duplicate the rear legs motion. Shift D, I'm just gonna hit X and 30 because we know it's 30 frames. So why bother moving it with the mouse when we can just type the number on the keyboard? All right, so now we have a walk cycle that we can be proud of. Except it doesn't loop perfectly because of where it stops. So we need to figure out where this should be stopping, which is gonna be kind of tricky. So those move, these move, those move, these move. Like if we ended at 210 here, he'll just stop walking, which isn't really what we want. So what we need to do is figure out, okay, there should be some action happening before this. So when he starts walking, some legs are already forward. So the middle legs here, let's go ahead and do a box selection on that. Shift D, X, -30. Okay, those legs would not have been walking already. So what about these legs? Well, those start the steps. So let's check the back leg. Okay, he starts at 70. Well, let's box select this. Shift D, X, -30. Ooh. Let's see how that works. All right, so that foot should start forward. All right, so then let's take the frontmost leg, Shift D, X, -30. All right, so we have the attack end now, which is being... Oh wait, it just added a keyframe, but those keyframes don't matter because this leg didn't have any keyframes? Oh yes, it did, because it was moving. But that's the at rest position, so we're okay with that. So we can, if we want, go in and delete some keyframes out. Is it going to hurt for those keyframes to be there? Not really, but I'll get rid of them. I don't need anything before 150. All right, so let's see how this looks now. Walk start. Okay, the loop still's not right, so what are we doing wrong? We're starting in the middle of that. We should be ending when the front foot is at its furthest point forward. So the front foot steps forward at frame 180. So either we can end at frame 30, or we can carry it out to frame 210, but then we need to loop this once more. And I think those would be the only two. I'm confused why I have a blue line there, but I don't here. I'm going to manually just click on the dot and then move it down. Except I can't because that doesn't work. What? What did I do here? It should be at frame 145. Oh, because that's... Duh. because it's not in the animation. So all I have to do is select this, Shift D X 30, and I think the rear leg needs it as well. Shift D X 30, and let's see what we've got now. And we want it to go to 210, right? 210 looks like the frame we want. So let's go ahead and play this animation out and see what we get. Does it loop? Oh, it loops. Okay, now, do we want to add a little bit of jiggle to the body? Some jigga jigga? Or maybe a little bit of side-to-side rotation? I wanted side-to-side like this. You know? That would honestly look weird to do on something with 6 legs because it has legs on both sides moving. So a side-to-side rotation, no, I'm not going to do that. I will do some up and down motion though. And to do that, you betcha, we're going to use a modifier. Now we have to add a new noise modifier. And all we have to do is change our frame range to be 150 to 210. And again, we will do the 5 frame in and out ease. Now let's do a scale of 12 and a strength of 0.1. I want it to be a little more noisy than the previous because he's walking. So, you know, he's moving a little bit more. Okay, and let's change the phase. The phase is pretty much just your random seed. So just scroll through that and it changes your noise pattern. So you get something like, I like that. It's pretty good, but you know what? The tail just being stationary, nah, it doesn't vibe for me. So you know what we're going to do? We already added a location there. Let's go to frame 210. And let's add one more location there. And actually, then let's go ahead and add a keyframe. Rename the keyframe to walk end. And this time, we're going to make the tail go back and forth on the X. So we're going to add a modifier. Whoops. Let's make sure we're selected on the only X. On only the X. We're going to add some noise. We're going to restrict the frame range, of course, because we don't want this going throughout the entire animation. And let's see what that looks like right now. Wow. That tail is going crazy. So let's stretch that out. Let's change our phase around some. Because I really don't care for that phase. This scale is too big. I want to have some noise going on. There we go. And let's play around with the phase. Ooh, right there. Tail's just kind of throwing back and forth, side to side. You know, I need some up and down motion too. So let's do some noise. Again, we want to restrict the frame range. 210 as the end. 5 frames in, 5 frames out. You can use the tab key to jump between those. And jump between all of these as well if you know what values you're looking for. If you don't, well, obviously, you know, you'll have to do that a little differently. You know what? That works. This tail's probably a little too animated, but I can tone that down by changing the strength to 1. And what's the strength sitting at? Oh, it's in at a positive 1? Let's put that to like 0.5. Yeah, I mean, this guy ain't up in the clubs or anything. Maybe he is, I don't know. That's better. Alright, so there's our walk cycle. Wahoo! So let's go ahead and put the first frame to 0. Go back to the default scene here. Let's just make the bones all invisible by going to a bone layer that has nothing on it. And let's turn that outside cube off by doing that. So he's got his little idle animation. It's pretty good. He's got his attack there. And then he's got a walk. Looks good to me. I mean, you might want to add a die animation or any of a bajillion other things, but I've been going for about an hour now 48 minutes, according to the timer here that I've been working in Blender. Edited will be a little shorter because I'm going to chop some stuff, but I think that's going to do it for this video. So this concludes the 3-part series on modeling, rigging, and animating. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you didn't, and you thought it was total garbage, please let me know in the comments. If you thought it was amazing and I should make more, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Or if you don't want to use the comment section because of its inadequacies and whatever, swing on over to my website, links in the description, and use the contact me link there to shoot me a message, and we can converse that way and hopefully help you figure out whatever you couldn't figure out from this video from the most qualified person on YouTube to be teaching. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. The only way this could be more majestic is if it had a texture. The file is available for download. Link will be on the webpage, which is linked in the description. And it might have a texture. Just throwing it out there. It might have a texture. So be sure to check it out. And that's it. So see you guys next time.